let's talk about another guy, this time on the offensive side of the ball, that I think people should start paying attention to. His name is Aaron Shamplin. Shamplin. I don't know. There's a weird L in there. He's a running back. He's out of Harvard. He's been a little bit of a journeyman in the NFL. He's undrafted in 2022 to the Dallas Cowboys, spent time in Dallas, Indianapolis, then the UFL with the Houston Gamblers, ended up in LA with the Chargers last year, and then signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers this summer. A guy that I don't think anybody knew who he was. I don't think people realized he was on the Steelers roster when OTAs floated around, because to be honest with you, I had no idea. I looked at him and I said, who's number 33? Who's that guy out there? And somebody said, oh, that's the dude from Harvard. And I said, I don't, that's not enough for me, pal. I don't know who the dude from Harvard is. But the more I've watched him, he's been very impressive. He's taking a very significant handful of snaps when it comes to, parts of practice where Najee and Jalen are not out there, which I think is impressive. And when you're fighting guys like, you got Dejon Edwards out of Georgia, you got Jonathan Ward, you got LaMichael Perine, I think you have an open competition for that, running back 4 if the Steelers choose to keep a running back 4, which I don't see why they wouldn't. I don't know why you would. If this wide receiver class was a lot better, you'd have an argument to say, oh, well, you're going to keep more wide receivers than you are running backs. That's not the case. You're looking at this and saying you might as well keep some running backs because you don't have wide receivers. I think Aaron Shamplin's a guy that he looks explosive. He looks like he's got good vision. He's a dude at Harvard. He finished with 2,200 yards in 3 seasons and 23 touchdowns. He had 11 touchdowns his last season, 9 touchdowns the year before, and 1,000 yards. He's got 3 receiving touchdowns at Harvard as well. I look at him as a name. It's early. I want to see him actually put the pads on and see if he can hit somebody. I want to see if, a guy like a Landon Roberts just makes him hate his life when it comes to backs on backers. Those things are very important. But you get a sense for these guys early. We knew Jaylen Warren was a stud at OTAs 2 years ago. We knew Najee Harris was going to be a menace 2 years ago. Anthony McFarland last year was the name that it's like you knew he was going to make the roster because he was impressive. You get a sense for running backs this early, and I think Aaron's a dude that I got my eyes on. Let me ask you this. I know you haven't been there, so you can't tell me if Aaron has been impressing, but I could ask you, do you think the Steelers with Cordero Patterson keep 4 running backs as we stand right now, or do you look at it and say, there's no point in keeping 4?
I think that there's no reason not to keep 4. I mean, you look at Cordero Patterson, that's the biggest reason. Yeah, he's your running back 3. He can take some of those snaps. He can take some of those carries. But at the same time, if your wide receiver room is underwhelming and Cordero Patterson ends up being your number 3 receiver 2 or number 4 receiver 2, he's going to need to get snaps there as well. And you need some insurance when it comes to the running back room, especially in training camp, when you're not going to want to have Najee Harris take a bunch of meaningless training camp reps. You're not going to want to have, Jaylen Warren take a bunch of meaningless training camp reps. So you're going to have somebody that elevates themselves to be that type of player, especially with, like I said, the lackluster wide receiver room, and knowing that you're going to need to lend Cordero Patterson out wide more so than you would if you had better wide receivers in your organization. So I think that there is definitely a battle for who's going to be that running back 3B or 4, because I do think that Patterson being kind of one foot in both worlds kind of changes the aspect of it here. And with those 3 names, 3 interesting opportunities there. You have that guy out of Georgia that you mentioned that is a young guy that has scored a lot of touchdowns with Georgia, yes. But then again, you're playing in front of a NFL offensive line. Yes. So again, it's a matter of who's the most impressive. And I think the door is wide open for one of these 3 guys to walk right through and get themselves a spot on the 53-man roster.
I agree. And I think that Jonathan Ward was my name to watch after rookie minicamp. But I don't know, like he's kind of fell back a little bit. And I'll be honest with you, like I was talking to you, I was joking about it, and I hope that this doesn't make its way to him, because I would feel terrible a little bit. I'd have to go apologize that I was talking some smack, even though I don't mean to be talking some smack. But LaMichael Perine was a dude who, when he signed, everybody was like, "Oh, there it is, man. This dude's going to be impressive." And I told you, like, I took a bunch of videos of this dude during his first practice. I was ready to, kind of like introduce him to the fan base. Those videos were not good. There were a lot of drop balls, a lot of Eddie Faulkner kind of being a little upset with the new guy. Not a name that I thought I was very impressed with in week 1. Hopefully that changes in week 2, because I think he's got the Super Bowl caliber, depth piece. He's been on the Chiefs. He knows how to play in the NFL. I think Jonathan Ward's the same way. If you've been in the NFL a couple of years and you've made rosters, you know how to do the rest of it. You know how to play special teams. You know how to be a pass blocker. You know how to, you know how to do the things that a third, fourth string running back knows how to do. So I think it's still up in the air on who makes the team. Shapklin is I'm going to ask him today how to pronounce his last name, but Shapklin is a name that I'm going to keep my eyes on, because to be honest with you, I'm very impressed with what I've seen through 1 week, 3 days of OTAs.